What's the weirdest thing you saw on a private jet? Keep it real, though. Story 1. Hey guys, I've been an avid reader on here for a while, and the stories people shared here are incredible. Today I finally have my own to share for this topic. It's been a bit unconventional, but I promise that it is 100% real, so here it goes. Let me give a bit of a background first. I work as a private chef, and I've had the opportunity to work for some pretty high-profile clients. Last year, I was hired to cater a private jet trip for a group of wealthy individuals. They were going on a weekend getaway to an exclusive island, and I was excited to be a part of the experience. The journey started off pretty normally. The passengers, boarded the plane, and I began serving the appetizers and drinks. Everything was going smoothly until we hit some turbulence. The plane shook a bit, and one of the passengers, an older gentleman, let out a yelp of surprise. It wasn't the turbulence that startled him, though. It was something else entirely. As I glanced over to see what was happening, I noticed that the man's carrying-on bag had been fallen open, and its contents were spilling out onto the floor. Among the usual items, like a book, headphones, and a travel pillow, there was something quite unusual. A small, ornate wooden box, about the size of a jewelry box. The man quickly scooped up the box and placed it back into his bag, but not before I caught a glimpse of what was inside. It was a collection of beautifully hand-painted eggs. Each egg was a different color and had intricate designs and patterns. They looked delicate. They looked expensive, like something that you'd see in a museum. I couldn't help but wonder why this man was traveling with such an odd collection of items. Curiosity got the better of me, and later in the flight, when I had a moment to chat with the man, I asked about the eggs. He hesitated for a moment, looking around to make sure nobody else was listening, before leaning in and whispering, "They're not just eggs, they're Fabergé eggs." My jaw dropped. If you're not familiar with the Fabergé eggs, they're a type of Russian decorative egg created by the House of Fabergé in the late 1800s and early 1900s, often given as gifts to the Russian royalty and are considered incredibly valuable today. The man goes on to explain that he was a collector and that he was taking the eggs to the island for a private exhibition. He had acquired them through various means over the years, including auctions, private sales. He seemed both proud and secretive about his collection, which only added to the intrigue. The rest of the flight went by without incident, and I couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious eggs. When we finally landed, the passengers disembarked, and I began to clean up the cabin. That's when I discovered something even stranger. Hidden underneath one of the seats was a small stuffed animal, a fox to be precise. It looked like it had been handmade with, buttons underneath it. The buttons were eyes and little red bow around its neck. It seemed out of place among the luxurious surroundings of the private jet, and I wondered who it could have even belonged to. Why could it possibly be here? I decided to ask the flight attendant if she knew anything about the stuffed animal. She looked surprised when I showed it to her and explained that she had never seen it before. She asked the other crew members, but none of them had any idea where it had come from either. It was a complete mystery. I held on to the stuffed fox, thinking that maybe one of the passengers would realize they had left it behind and would come back for it. As the weekends went on, however, nobody claimed the fox. I found myself growing more and more attached to the little creature, wondering about its origins and how it had ended up on the private jet. On the return flight, I decided to bring up the topic of the stuffed fox with the passengers. I casually mentioned that I found it under one of the seats and asked if it belonged to anybody. The older man with the Fabergé egg seemed particularly interested in the fox, but insisted that it was not his. As we landed, the passengers gathered their belongings and the man approached me one last time. He told me that he's been thinking about that stuffed fox and believed it might have a connection to his egg collection. He explained there was indeed an old Russian folktale about a magical fox that could grant wishes, and he speculated that the fox might have been created as a companion piece to the eggs. He could not prove his theory, of course. Well, but he suggested that I keep the fox and consider it as a gift. He smiled as he said, "Who knows, maybe it'll bring you a good fortune." I thanked him for the unexpected present and tucked the fox carefully back into my bag. So there you have it. The weirdest thing I've ever saw on a private jet. Oh man, a mysterious collection of Fabergé eggs and a potentially magical stuffed fox. Well, I still have that fox to this day, sitting on a shelf in my home, and every time I look at it, I'm reminded of that strange, unforgettable flight. Story number 2. Well, several years ago, I was working as a personal assistant to a wealthy entrepreneur who frequently traveled for business. On one particular trip, we were flying from Los Angeles to London for a series of important meetings. The private jet was luxurious, and I was looking forward to a smooth and comfortable journey. Little did I know, we were in for a shocking surprise. About 2 hours into the flight, I was working on my laptop when I heard a strange noise coming from the back of the plane. At first, I thought it was just turbulence, but the sound persisted. It was a low growling, followed by a series of high-pitched whines, and yes, my curiosity piqued. I decided to investigate. As I made my way towards the rear of the plane, the noise grew louder. I cautiously opened a storage closet, and my utter disbelief was there. I found a full-grown mountain lion, crouching inside, and I absolutely froze, just staring at the wild animal. My heart was pounding in my chest, and the mountain lion just stared back with its eyes wider than ever. I slowly backed up, feeling a lot of fear, trying not to provoke the animal, and hurried to inform the entrepreneur and the flight crew about the unexpected stare-away. We were all in shock, wondering how on earth a mountain lion managed to board a private jet. The entrepreneur immediately contacted the ground crew, who informed us that the mountain lion likely just wandered onto the tarmac from the nearby mountains, sneaking into the plane while it's being prepared for departure. The rest of the flight was tense after that. Well, it was a tense affair, that's to say. We kept a close eye on the storage closet, making sure the door was securely shut, and the mountain lion remained contained. As we approached London, the entrepreneur arranged for a team of animal control experts to meet us at the airport. Well, once we landed, the professionals safely got tranquilized and removed the mountain lion, ensuring nobody else was harmed during the process. They transported the animal back to its natural habitat in California, and we were left to marvel at the truly bizarre experience. Story number 3. A friend of mine, who works as a private security consultant, once told me an incredible story I'll share with you guys about a theft that occurred on a private jet. The target? A rare multi-million-dollar diamond being transported from London to New York. The jet was chartered specifically for this purpose, and the diamond was stored in a very high-security case, monitored by a team of armed guards. Everything seemed to be in place to ensure the safe transport of the priceless gem. However, what transpired during the flight would leave everybody on board baffled and absolutely shocked. Midway through the journey, while the passengers were enjoying their mid-flight meal, one of the guests noticed the security seal on the diamond's case had been tampered with. Alarmed, he immediately alerted the other guards, and they discovered, oh boy, the diamond was missing. The plane was turned into a frenzy as everyone on board was thoroughly searched, and the jet was scoured from top to bottom, but the diamond was nowhere to be found. It was as if it had simply vanished into thin air. As the plane continued its journey, the guards and passengers alike were left to spectate about how the heist had been pulled off. Was it an inside job? Had the thief somehow managed to board the plane undetected and escape with the diamond mid-flight? The theories were endless, but no concrete evidence could ever be found. When the plane finally landed in New York, a thorough investigation was launched. To this day, the diamond has never been recovered, and the case remains unsolved. The audacious heist, well, has gone down in history as one of the most baffling and daring thefts ever to occur on a private jet. Story number 4. As a flight attendant, I've seen my fair share of unique passengers and strange occurrences up in the sky. However, there was one particular incident that not only left me in straight-up stitches, but also brought an entire plane of passengers toward me for a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. It was a regular day aboard a transatlantic flight from New York to London. The plane was packed, and as we prepared for takeoff, I could feel the anticipation up in the air. Little did I know that this flight would soon turn into some spontaneous high-flying comedy act. Approximately 2 hours into the flight, just as passengers were settling in for the long journey, a commotion began near the rear of the plane. A small fluffy dog escaped its carrier and was bounding down the aisle, its leash trailing behind it like a festive ribbon. As the canine escapee sprinted past me, I instinctively gave chase, determined to catch the fugitive before any mishaps could happen. Well, the dog, seemingly aware of its newfound freedom, zigzagged all through the aisles with incredible agility, evading my every attempt to snatch its leash. Passengers giggled and gasped as the pursuit unfolded before them, their previous boredom replaced by straight-up delight. Just as I was beginning to, fear that I'd never catch the rogue pup, a middle-aged man in the aisle seat decided to join the fray. With a mischievous twinkle in his eye, he grabbed a pillow from his seat and expertly tossed it in the dog's path, while the fluffy projectile slowed the dog down just enough for me to grab its leash. A burst of applause erupted from the nearby passengers, and I couldn't help but laugh along with them. But the hilarity did not end there. As I made my way back to the dog's owner, I encountered a group of children who had been inspired by the impromptu dog chase. They had formed a conga line and were dancing their way through the aisles, much to the amusement of their fellow passengers. Well, as the conga line snaked through the plane, even more passengers joined in, their faces lit up with laughter. Flight attendants and passengers alike were now part of a high-altitude conga line, united by the unexpected humor of the situation. The atmosphere in the cabin had shifted from mundane to downright festive. Well, when the conga line finally disbanded, another round of applauses filled the plane, and I returned the dog to its rightful owner. Finally, amidst the laughter and smiles, the woman, a friendly-looking elderly lady, thanked me profusely and secured her pet back to its carrier, promising to keep a better eye out. Well, as the rest of the flight continued without further incident, I could not help but marvel at the power of humor to bring people together. What had begun as an ordinary long-haul flight had transformed into a spontaneous and unforgettable experience. All thanks to, a curious puppy, and the contagious laughter that it inspired. The plane touched down in London without any further incidences, but the passengers disembarked with an extra little spring in their step. As the flight attendants waved goodbye, we exchanged knowing glances, aware that we all have been part of something truly special. For me, it was a reminder that even amidst the hustle and bustle of air travel, there's always room for a little bit of fun and a little bit of laughter. So tell me, if you've ever been on a private jet flight or heck, any airplane, what is your craziest story? Make sure you share it in the comment section down below and subscribe for daily videos, cause you never know what Mr. Reddito is going to ask. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.